Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Can everybody hear me okay? Alhamdulillah, good, perfect. All right, give me just 2 minutes really quick. I need to finalize one thing and I'll get everything up for you guys. While I'm just getting set up, is there anybody have any questions from last week that you'd like to go over really quick before we get started on this week? All right, no questions then. Tamam, inshallah. Just give it just a couple of minutes just to let one or two more people get in, and we can get started, inshallah. Alrighty, let's get screen share going. Sorry, guys, just my computer has literally been updating the entire day. It's restarted like I think like 50 times today. So subhanallah, very frustrating. All right. Alrighty, let's get our participants. Let's fix everything so I can see you guys and your questions as you have them. I'm just setting up my screen really quick so I can see your questions if you have, and get your participation as usual. And chat, there we go. Zahira, check your email. You should have the slides. I just sent them just now, Zahira, to you and the other person who requested. So just let me know that you got them. Last week's slides, I'm sorry, I'm using a different computer today, and I will be able to send those to you, inshallah, before next week. If you could just remind me, Zahira, on this coming Thursday, just send me a reminder email for the slides from week one, and I'll send them to you. I just don't have them on this computer I'm using today. All right. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. So, inshallah, we're going to begin with sciences of the Quran. Jazana wa iyyakum. So, inshallah, we're going to follow the same sequence that we did last week, which is where we begin with Quran and then Hadith, and then we'll finish with Usul al-Fiqh. Inshallah, we'll take breaks between every class. As I have mentioned to you, I am using a computer that's been harassing me all day. So if you're having any trouble, inshallah, please let me know, and I will be delighted, inshallah, to uh, try to fix whatever problem that might be happening, inshallah. But hopefully nothing is going to go on. Iram, just email me. I can't. It's difficult for me to catch everybody's email here. So if you don't have my email, I will put it for you right now. Oh, don't be sorry. All right, let me put my email for anybody else who wants the notes. So anybody who needs the notes, just send it to me. If you need it in PDF, just put that note in the email that you send me. I've been sending them out as PowerPoint slides. But if you need them as a PDF, if you don't have PowerPoint for some reason, I'll do that, inshallah. All right. Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah. Allahumma yassir li amri. اللهم اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي امري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. So today, inshallah, we're going to, in the Sciences of the Quran part of today's lesson, we're going to talk about a very important division in the Quran called the Makki and Madani surahs. Okay, so remember what we talked about last week when I told you that a lot of these divisions that we talk about, they are revealed divisions or organization, or is this something that we have created to try to make it easier to study? Who can answer? These divisions we talked last week about, for example, Tawheed, the variety, or somebody might say Tawheed is 3 parts, another person might say Tawheed is 4 parts, another person might say Tawheed is 2 parts. Okay, is this division itself, like the system that we use to divide, is it something that's revealed from Allah, or is it something that we created to try to help explain it better? Very good. It's just to make the explanation easy. So, with regard to the Makki and Madani surahs, if a person doesn't know the difference between the Makki and Madani surahs, okay, they're reading the Quran and they're trying to get the guidance from the Quran. Do they need to understand the difference between these two things? No, they don't. And again, what we're talking about here, we're trying to divide or organize things, okay, make divisions to make it easier to understand certain things, particularly for the student of knowledge. So you guys are studying this as a diploma program, okay? So you are trying to get your diploma in intensive Islamic studies. And as a result, you are supposed to have these concepts or understand these concepts because, I'm expecting that you guys are going to be taking on leadership roles in Islamic dawah or in teaching or something like that. So it's important for you to know these things. Is it necessary for the Muslim to know it? No. Is the person who doesn't know Makki and Madani, they're not going to get into Jannah? No. That has nothing to do with any of that, okay, whatsoever. This is all about just trying to understand things better. So, what is the difference between the Makki and the Madani? So, the first difference we're going to talk about, of course, is what separates them. The separation between them is the hijrah of the Prophet ﷺ. So, when the Prophet ﷺ, he went from Mecca to Medina, okay, it ended the component. The Meccan surahs were finished. Okay, the Meccan surahs were finished. And when he got to Medina, we started with the Madani surahs. Now, here's a trick, or a special. No, it's not a trick actually. It's an extra credit question. Okay, there is one other place of revelation. So we have the ayat, the parts of the Quran revealed in Mecca, and the parts of the Quran revealed in Medina. But there's one other place that the Quran was revealed. But it's not, it's a very small part. Very good, excellent. Okay. It was revealed on, excellent Farzana, mashallah alayki, that it was revealed during the Isra wal Mi'raj. Okay, so the Mi'raj, where the Prophet ﷺ went up into the heavens, that there is a portion of the Quran that was revealed there, and so this is it's a special kind of significance to that. But in general, the Quran is generally divided into Makki and Madani surahs. Okay, what is the majority of the Quran? Is the majority of the Quran Meccan surahs or Madani surahs? It's actually Meccan surahs, okay? The majority of the Quran, okay? The majority, so the number of surahs that are Mecci are more. The number of surahs. Now, the Madani surahs, as we're going to find out later, are longer, okay? But if we're looking at how many out of 114 surahs of the Quran were revealed in Mecca, we're talking about something like 70, okay? 70 plus, okay? Something like two-thirds of the Quran was revealed in Mecca in terms of the number of surahs. Okay, now length of surahs is something different. So this is one of those systems that we look at. So when we look at the characteristics of the Meccan surahs, okay, the Meccan surahs are generally they are more typically they are surahs that are short. Okay, they are extremely eloquent. The language of the Meccan surahs is highly, highly, highly eloquent. It is a really an impressive Arabic that is found in the Meccan surahs, and the eloquence of them it's unique. Why do you think that is? What would be the reason for the Meccan surahs to be so eloquent and the Medinan surahs to be more to be less eloquent, put it that way, to be more, they're more, descriptive and detailed and so forth, but the eloquence isn't quite there. Okay, very good, Zahira. So the Quraysh themselves were eloquent speakers, and because of the fact, and they had poets among them and so forth, and so because the Quran was being revealed, in Mecca, of course, the people that were encountering the Quran were the people of Quraysh. This is one of the ways that Allah Azza wa Jal was showing them the truth of the Quran. Okay, so it is a dawah principle. As a brief aside, okay, when we talk about, okay, guidance in general, okay, you find some people, okay, that when we talk about the hellfire and Jannah and so forth, that they say, you know, is it fair? Some people they ask this question: is it fair for someone to go to the hellfire? When, for example, we were born as Muslims, and some other people were not born, and so do they really have the same, opportunity that we have, and so forth? And this small question that I just asked you is an evidence of Allah's mercy to mankind. That Allah Azza wa Jal, He is so merciful that you look at that despite the corrupt nature, the arrogance, the violence, the hatred that Quraysh had. Allah Azza wa Jal, He almost like He fashioned the Quran, portion of the Quran, for their benefit, simply for their benefit. The eloquence of the surahs of Mecca is something that was meant to call them. And you see how Allah Azza wa Jal, no matter the background of the individual, Allah Azza wa Jal always delivers the message to the people. So it doesn't matter if a person wasn't born into an Islamic family. Doesn't matter if a person was born, far from the Quran. Allah Azza wa Jal, He brings the guidance to those people. Okay, wherever they may be, however they may be, subhanallah, and that is part of His mercy. These surahs are short, so we look at Juz Amma, like the last part, the last Juz of the Quran, all of it is Meccan surahs. Um, Something that's kind of unique about the Meccan surahs is that every surah has the word kalla. What does kalla mean? Anybody know? No, qul is say, qul. But this one is kalla. So it's like la, but you have a kaf in front of it. So you guys know what la means, right? La is a very famous word. No, right? So what's the kaf in front of la mean? What does it signify? It means absolutely not. It's emphasis on no. So it is an emphatic no. Emphatic no. Absolutely not. Okay. So subhanallah, every surah has the word kalla in it. The typical themes that you find in the Meccan surahs, the themes are going to be the articles of faith. Okay, so what are the we have the six articles of faith that Jibreel alayhi salam he came to teach the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Muslims. Okay, which is the belief in Allah, the belief in His angels, the belief in His revealed books, the belief in His messengers, the belief in the Day of Judgment, and the belief in Qadr, the divine decree. Okay, so you will find that the Meccan surahs they spend a lot of time on these issues, on the issues of faith. Okay, building up the faith of the individual. Um, Similarly, you'll find, of course, a huge emphasis upon the Day of Judgment and the signs of the Day of Judgment, the elements of the Day of Judgment, hellfire and Jannah, all these things are mentioned. The stories of the prophets are all typically Meccan surahs. Um, so the call to Tawheed, the warning against Shirk, all of this is the Meccan surahs. So now let's take a moment to think about this when we're calling people to Islam. Okay, so recently somebody came and asked me a question about this in one of the in-person classes that I teach, and he was talking to me about, okay, there's a person that I know that I want to help this person become Muslim. I want to call them to Islam. Okay, what's the focus? This is what he asked me. He said, "Where do I begin? Where would we begin? And what's your evidence for that?" What do you guys think? I want you to tell me, where would you begin if you want to teach somebody about Islam? What are the basics, though, Farzana? I want you guys to be specific. Okay, Iram, excellent. Tawheed. We want to begin with La ilaha illallah. Okay, what's the evidence for that, though? Why do you say that? Because so we're getting this knowledge right now, but we want to make this knowledge practical. Okay, so this isn't just about, okay, memorizing a bunch of different things, but we want to make it practical. I don't want philosophical arguments. Remember what we talked about last week. I want evidence. When we talk about evidence, we're talking about what? We're talking about Quran or Sunnah, right? This is the dalil. So what is the Quranic evidence or the Hadith evidence regarding calling people to Tawheed first? So I will share it with you. So very good, excellent, Farzana. The Meccan surahs themselves, we look at how Allah gave da'wah to the people of Mecca and to the early Arab tribes that received the message, the tribes that were around Mecca. Okay, and so the Meccan surahs themselves, they focus, and Surah Al-Ikhlas is excellent, but it is what? It is a Meccan surah. And so we see that Allah Azza wa Jal, He focused on Tawheed, okay, initially. Now, again, this is still somewhat academic. Okay, we have another dalil, another evidence. Okay, we're going to talk about dalil in today in the usul al-fiqh. So we'll start using that word right now. But the evidence from the hadith is also we have a very, very strong hadith, which is the hadith of Mu'adh ibn Jabal. So this is a name that we have to know. Mu'adh ibn Jabal. So Mu'adh is one of the scholars of the companions of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Mu'adh, what did he do? He not to Medina. Mu'adh went to Yemen. Okay, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent him to Yemen. Okay, to teach the people there about Islam. So he told him, Mu'adh, you are going to a people of the book, the Yemenis at that time, or the people of um, the what is now essentially the southern part of Saudi Arabia. It's not quite the current country of Yemen. Najran, the people of Najran. Okay, so this is there was a delegation that came from the territory of Najran, which historically has been part of Yemen, but currently Najran is one of the southernmost provinces of Saudi Arabia. But they were a Christian people. Okay, so they came and listened to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They decided they wanted to remain Christian, but they accepted the Islamic government over them. So the Prophet ﷺ, he sent Mu'adh to Najran, and he told him, begin by calling them to La ilaha illallah. If they accept that from you, then tell them that Allah has obligated upon them 5 prayers every day and night. Okay, so in 24 hours, 5 prayers. And if they accept that from you, then tell them that Allah has obligated upon them a charity to be taken from their rich and given to their poor. Right? So we have Tawheed, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Then we have Salah, the prayer, and then we have Zakah. And you see that he went in order, and he told him what? He said, if they accept that from you, then tell them the next part. Okay? The problem that we have, the biggest problem that we have when we are trying to call people to Islam today is what? We start with the details. Very good. We start with the details. Okay, that's one of the biggest problems. And one of those details could be that we talk about Jesus or we talk about something else. Okay, but generally the problem is that we go into the details, or generally we get pulled in, we get kind of suckered into talking about something that is not necessary to be discussed with. Okay. Very good, Zahira. The rules that come with being Muslims. For example, somebody comes up to you, okay, Farzana, and says to you, why do you wear that thing on your head anyways? Like, don't you realize we're in the 21st century? Women are free. You don't have to wear that, So what happens? Most Muslim women, okay, or a Muslim man who happens to be in that environment, what are they going to, how are they going to approach that situation? Give me an idea. They're very good. So they'll start defending, trying to justify the hijab. Okay. So what happens is, what's going to happen then is that person eventually is going to, they have their life they have to attend to. They have to get on to work or get on to school or wherever they happen to go. Okay. So they walk away after they heard from you a defense of the hijab. Okay. And maybe they understood, maybe they didn't understand, maybe they remember, maybe they don't remember. But the problem is they don't know what? They don't know La ilaha illallah. I'll give you an example. I was a while ago, we used to do this kind of street dawah project, and so we were in Houston, and we were filming conversations with non-Muslims about Islam. So we went to the bus station, and we saw a guy getting off of the bus, and we had the camera and the microphone. And I said, "Hey, would you like to talk to us about Islam?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'd love to talk to you about Islam. I even have Muslim members of my family. I have members of my family who are Muslim." And I said, "Fantastic." I said, "This is great. We can talk. We're going to get into we have a deep conversation with you about Islam then, since you have family members who are Muslim." So I said to him, "So tell me what you know about Islam. You got family members who are Muslim. You should know a lot." He said, "Well, I know that you Muslims don't eat pork." I said, "Good. You're right. We don't eat pork." And so I said, "So what else do you know about Islam?" He sat and he scratched his chin and he thought and thought and thought. And he said, "I really don't know anything else about Islam. Pretty much whenever we get together and we have dinner, we argue about pork. And that's pretty much it. That I don't know anything else about Islam. So I said, "You don't know who we worship?" He said, "No." I said, "Do you know the name of the Prophet of Islam?" He said, "No, I have no idea." So imagine that this is a person who has Muslim family members, okay? And all he knows about Islam is pork, that we don't eat pork. This is a catastrophic failure. Okay, and this is not the way that Allah taught us. Okay, so Allah Azza wa Jal, in revealing the Meccan surahs, the focus is on building the Iman. Once you have Iman, then you are able at that point in time to act upon that Iman. Then you're able to put it into practice. You're able to follow rules, but you can't follow rules if you don't have any Iman. Look at the difference between the American concept of the prohibition. So, the American Constitution, there was a constitutional amendment, okay, to prohibit alcohol, followed 4 years later by another constitutional amendment, okay, that allowed alcohol again, that retracted this prohibition. Why did they retract the prohibition of alcohol after 4 years? Not exactly public pressure. Public pressure certainly had something to do with it. Money had something to do with it. But there's a bigger reason. Prohibition was a catastrophic failure. Okay? It was a catastrophic failure. More people were drinking alcohol 4 years into the prohibition than when the prohibition was enacted. So prohibition actually led to an increase in the consumption of alcohol. Can you imagine that? Prohibition in the United States led to an increase in alcohol consumption. It was basically it brought about, or it allowed the organized crime, the mafia, basically, it allowed organized crime to flourish. It basically allowed organized crime to have a purpose. Right? And so it was a disaster. And that's why they said, forget it. We have to retract it because we're going in the wrong direction. This is terrible. Okay. Now, here's what's interesting. Okay. Now, but you have in Medina, okay, you also had a prohibition. The ayah came down in Medina forbidding alcohol. Okay. The Allah Azza wa Jal, He completely prohibited it. That and gambling. Okay. And the tafsir states that the streets of Medina were running with rivers of alcohol because everybody poured out their alcohol. So why did it succeed in Medina and failed in the United States? It's because of this buildup. Because you build up the iman, the faith of the person, and then you introduce the rule, and they will be able to implement the rule. They will be able to act upon it. But if you don't, if you do it backwards, okay, then it results in rebellion. So these are all aspects that have to be understood. Okay. So somebody that comes to me and says, okay, I want to talk to you about terrorism. Okay. Because I read a hadith and I read part of the Quran, and it seems like, there's all this talking about fighting and killing and blah, 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 blah. So I want to talk to you about that. So how do I go from there to Tawheed? I say, you know what? That's a really good question. And I'd love to talk to you about that. But before we talk about that, I want you to understand, lead them into what I want to talk about, which is Tawheed. Okay? I want to talk about Tawheed first. Then, if we have time, we'll talk about the other stuff. Because you have to have the framework. The framework has to exist. If it doesn't exist, then it's useless. So this is how we can implement, or we can take this knowledge of the Meccan surahs and put it into practice. Right? Does that help a little bit for you guys so that we can see this isn't just some kind of, this isn't just some kind of, brain aerobics, okay? And Hannah, what you just mentioned about kids, okay? So we talk about children, okay? And this is a very, very important thing for all of you who have kids. Even if you don't have kids, then maybe inshallah you will have kids, and this is a very, very important thing. The hardest, one of the biggest problems with raising kids, Muslim kids, is it's so hard to get them to do what? It's a challenge. It's a struggle, almost a daily struggle to pray. Excellent. Okay. Pray. They don't want to pray. Now, so what happens is we force them to pray. Say, you have to pray. It's Allah's going to punish you. You're going to be in trouble. I'm going to be upset with you. And so we make them, but we never do what? We never explain to them why we pray. We never talk about who is Allah. I mean, you're praying to Allah, and how many of our kids have any concept about Allah? They don't know Allah at all. They have no idea who they're praying to. If you were to stop and sit and explain to them the majesty of Allah Azza wa Jal, okay, why Allah is worthy of worship, period. Even if there is no hellfire and there's no Jannah, okay, even if we just die at the end of our lives and it's over, Allah is still worthy of being worshipped. Right, Zahira. We don't tell them about Allah. So how can they love Him? How can they worship Him? How can they magnify Him? How can they have any concept of this if we don't teach them? And that's why it's important. Okay, so so I'm glad you brought that up, Hannah, because it's certainly so. This is how we can translate this knowledge into something practical. Okay, now let's talk about the Medina surahs. Okay, and so the Medina surahs are focusing on the rules of Sharia. Yes, many parents they teach by fear, unfortunately, and they don't um, it does make a huge difference in our obligation if we do what we do out of love, if we do what we do. And again, even just this concept of recognizing Allah's greatness, okay, recognizing Allah's greatness, that you would naturally bow down to Him, okay, you would naturally bow down to Him because of His greatness. But we don't take that approach. And that's why, so if somebody comes to you, let's say again, because you guys are learning this and you're going to be leaders, inshallah, okay? Somebody comes to you in the future and says, hey, Farzana or Iran, Selena, any of you guys, what somebody comes to you and says, my iman is very weak. What can I do? What would you recommend based on what we just talked about? No, but go back to the basics is too vague. I want you to be very specific. You need to give a prescription. Like a doctor, he's going to write a medication. He or she's going to write a medication. You're going to give them a prescription. So names of Allah, understanding Allah, you guys are correct, but still not specific enough. I want specifics. Hannah, excellent, but specifics. To the same. Okay, loving Allah, we want a specific thing. I want a specific prescription from what you just learned. Certainly, Allah is forgiving. But what am I going to give them? I'm not going to give them just a statement, right? I want to give them a prescription. What would you give? Would you maybe tell them, why don't you go tonight and read this surah? Okay, read the surah from the Quran and contemplate it. And come back tomorrow, let's talk about it. Right? So if you give them one of the surahs, one of the Meccan surahs that focuses on these elements, okay, focuses on Tawheed and focuses upon maybe some story of the Prophet, focuses on story of one of the prophets, focuses on the hereafter, focuses on Allah's names and attributes, and then the person stops and reflects upon it and then comes back to you and you discuss it in more detail. You see how that will have an impact on uplifting that person's iman? Because they might come back to you and they might say, I read that surah, and I don't understand this, and I don't understand this, and I don't understand this. So then you stop and give them that information. You help them extract the beauty out of these ayat, and then that's how the iman is improved. That's how the iman is increased, right? Does that make sense? Everybody, or just to Farzana and Zahira? No. Yusuf, makes sense? Tunda, makes sense? So the Quran, so when we look at the Meccan surahs, okay, the Meccan surahs, they're meant to basically to uplift the iman. Okay, these surahs, because of the themes that they have, okay, they are meant to increase the person's iman, to create iman in those people. Okay. And so when you get somebody to start to go back to these surahs and to read them, okay, then what's happening is that you're sparking in them the questions. Okay, I don't understand this. And then they come back and talk to you, and then there's that dialogue that you can then have, a dialogue which results in improving and increasing the iman, because we're talking about these are the things that lift the iman: the remembrance of Allah, knowing Allah's attributes, remembering Allah as being one, the stories of the prophets, the hope that these stories create, the to know that success is going to come, to know that hardship, that ease comes after hardship. All of these things, they uplift the iman, right? Or even, do you understand Tunda now? Okay. And if you don't understand, or if I haven't explained it right, let me know. But this is the idea, and this is the thing we don't do, because people are stuck on, you come and everybody today wants something simple. Okay, medicine, they come and they say, oh, I'm depressed. Okay, well, the solution to your depression is to get out of the bad patterns that you're living in. Okay, but that's too hard for them. They don't want that. They want a pill. Give me a pill. I want to take a pill every morning, and that should make me feel better. They don't want to change their life. Okay, so we're living in a society that's the filled with depression, filled with anxiety. Okay, al-ham wal-gham. Okay, the society is filled with these things. Why? Because people are disconnected from the Lord. People are living superficial and artificial lives. And so when you tell them to get back to living better, they don't want to do it. They want the simple solution. But this is why we can't, fall for that. We can't, when we're working with other Muslims, we're not going to try to give them that simple solution. Okay, or that basically it's not really a solution. We're basically saying something and telling them to go away. We're giving them the real solution, which is go back to the book of Allah. Allah revealed this book to be guidance. Allah revealed this book to be a healing for the hearts and the souls. If you are not going back to this book, how are you going to be healed? And so that's one of the most important things that we are not doing. We're not calling people back to the book of Allah. And again, using this knowledge to our advantage. So the Medinan surahs, on the other hand, are different. Okay, so in the way that the Meccan surahs have this eloquence and this poetic, nature to them, the Medinan surahs are more mundane. Okay, they're more to the point, and because of the nature of the surahs themselves, they're talking about rulings. Okay, they're talking about rulings. So this isn't the uplifters of the heart. Okay, this isn't the heart softeners. These are things that are hard. Okay, they're more complex. They're more legal. Okay, so the rulings of the Sharia, the vast majority of them, okay, 90+% found in the Medina surahs. Okay, you name it. So sales transactions, the rules regarding the prayer, the rules regarding fasting, all of these concepts. So all the acts of worship, the transactions, the daily transactions that we have, the relationships that we have with the people of the book specifically. So the Meccan surahs, they talk more about the relationships with the disbelievers, the kuffar. Okay, whereas the Medinan surahs, they talk about the relationship between the Muslim and the people of the book, and the relationship with the Muslim and the hypocrites. So it defines hypocrisy and it warns against hypocrisy. These surahs are typically much longer, okay, and more detailed. When we look at, just to give you another example, so Surah Al-Baqarah, for example, Surah number 2. Surah Al-Baqarah is approximately 48 pages long, okay, so the longest surah in the Quran. It has the longest ayah, which is an entire page of the Quran, which talks about financial transactions. So there's so much legality, so many rulings found in Surah Al-Baqarah, that when the people in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, or the early generations, when somebody was known to have memorized Surah Al-Baqarah, they would automatically make that person like a leader. Because remember, at the time of the Prophet ﷺ, in those early generations, people didn't just memorize without understanding. They would understand, then memorize. So the way that the companions approached the Quran, they would take 5 to 10 ayat at a time, and they would understand those ayat. They would know the applications of those ayat, and then they would memorize them. So that means that a person who memorized Surah Al-Baqarah is a person who understands all of the rulings that come out of Surah Al-Baqarah, and this is a person who understands Islam. Right? Does that make sense? So the next subject that we're going to do is, Yusuf, you're asking why? Why what? So the next subject then is going to be أسباب النزول. Asbab al-Nuzul, which is the reasons for the revelation. So this basically is so there is some of the books of tafsir of the Quran. There are some books of tafsir that focus entirely on the reasons for the revelation, which is what it means that we want to know in what context was this ayah revealed. In what context was this particular ayah revealed? Okay, now understanding that helps us to understand the ayah in far greater depth. Okay, because we have to recognize that these ayat were revealed in specific conditions. Okay, and so as a result of that, when we look at the Quran, we know that the Quran, or when we're studying the Quran, there's always a specific and a general, a specific meaning and a general meaning. Okay, and this is one of the proofs that the Quran is from Allah, because there is no book that could do that except the Quran. There is no book that could contain two meanings like that except that it comes from Allah. So it's enormously challenging. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He revealed ayat that deal with particular circumstances. So, for example, if we were to go, let's say, to Surah An-Nur, okay? So, Surah An-Nur, Surah number 24, all right? And Surah An-Nur, the theme of Surah An-Nur is what? Who knows? Light upon light is in it, but it's not the theme. The theme of the surah is on regarding a specific event. The Surah An-Nur was revealed regarding the ifk. Okay, the ifk, which is the accusations made against Aisha. Okay, the accusations that were made against Aisha. This surah was revealed on for that is the major theme of that. Okay, so we look, for example, at ayah number 11 of Surah An-Nur. إن الذين جاءوا بالإفك عصبة منكم لا تحسبوه شرا لكم بل هو خير لكم لكل امرئ منهم ما اكتسب من الإثم والذي تولى كبره منهم له عذاب عظيم. Okay, so we look at this ayah. إن الذين جاءوا بالإفك عصبة. Those who came with this monstrous lie, okay, that they lied against Aisha, saying that she had an affair, okay, are only a small group among you. Do not think that this is something evil for you. Indeed, it is something that is good for you. Okay? For every one of them, one of the people who carried this lie, they will have, they will earn a certain portion of sin depending on their involvement. And the one who carried the majority of it will have a severe punishment. لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا وقالوا هذا إفك مبين. Why was it that when you heard this, okay, heard this lie about Aisha, that the believing men and the believing women, okay, why didn't they have a good opinion or like give benefit of the doubt? Okay, and saying that this is a severe lie. No problem, Hannah. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you. So the principle here is what? So we're talking about these ayat are very clearly in reference to the ifk, okay, this lie that was made against Aisha, okay, very clearly. So specifically, okay, we're talking about the ifk. Do these ayat have a general meaning? Do we take any benefit from them, or it is only just a historical kind of event? Right? Exactly. So we learned that we cannot spread rumors. We learned that we have to give benefit of the doubt to the believer, and not when we hear evil things about them, we shouldn't run to spread these lies. Okay, but we should assume the best about our brothers and sisters. And when we hear something evil being said about them, we should try to stop it. So this is the benefit. So we see here that Allah teaches us these general lessons from a specific thing. What's the advantage of having that backstory? Very good. It makes it relatable. Okay, so it's a teaching technique. It's a phenomenal teaching technique because we can always go back and say, "Oh, yeah," just like in that situation. So if I hear somebody talking bad about somebody that I know, I will remember this story and say, "No, that's not acceptable." Okay, so that's the specific. Okay, the specific is that there are ayat that are very specific like this and relate to specific events in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, but they also have this general meaning. Okay, so it shows how Allah Azza wa Jal, He's teaching us throughout time. Okay, throughout so many generations since the time of the Prophet ﷺ, they're still relevant. This is completely relevant. Okay, and it's not just, oh, this is just something historical. Okay, it helps us also to understand the Quran better. So, for example, when we look at Surah Al-Baqarah, ayah 158, okay? إن الصفا والمروة من شعائر الله فمن حج البيت أو اعتمر فلا جناح عليه أن يطوف بهما ومن تطوع خيرا فإن الله شاكر عليم. Okay, so Allah talks about Safa and Marwa. Okay, so those of you who have been to Mecca and made Umrah or Hajj, you know Safa and Marwa. Okay, so Safa and Marwa, this is something that has relevance from the time of Sayyidah Hajar, okay, the wife of Ibrahim alayhi salam, Hajar alayhi salam, that she was radiallahu ta'ala anha, that she ran between these two hills, okay, looking for any type of water or assistance, okay, before Zamzam was revealed to her, and she walled it off. Okay, so Allah Azza wa Jalla is telling us, "Inna Safa wal Marwa min sha'air." Okay, the Safa and Marwa, they are from the signs of Allah Azza wa Jalla. They are from the symbols of Allah Azza wa Jalla. فَمَنْ حَجَّ الْبَيْتَ أَوْ اعْتَمَرَ. Okay, so whoever makes Hajj or makes Umrah, فَلَا جُنَاحَ عَلَيْهِ أَن يَطَّوَّفَ بِهِمَا. There is no harm upon them to go between them, to run between these two hills. But wait a second here. So Allah is saying there is no harm upon them if they go between these two hills. Is the running between Safa and Marwa, is it a portion or is it an obligatory part of the Hajj and Umrah, or is it optional? Okay, very good. So all of you are correct. It is obligatory. So why is Allah? It sounds. I mean, it seems like Allah is saying it's optional. There's no harm upon you. So if we don't understand the reason of the revelation, then we can't understand this ayah. Okay, we can't understand this ayah if we don't know the reason of revelation. The reality is, okay, that they had, so the pagans, okay, they had distorted the meaning of Safa and Marwa, as you guys are already alluding to, okay, and it became a pagan ritual. That running between these two was a pagan ritual. Okay, they had distorted the meaning. So when the believers came to make their Umrah, they were afraid If we go between Safa and Marwa, will the disbelievers think that we're following their traditions? Will the disbelievers think that we are following their lies and their distortions? So Allah said, no, there is no harm upon you, meaning there is no sin upon you. You are not sinful if you go between Safa and Marwa, because we're going to re-establish the real reason for that and obliterate the idols that these disbelievers made. Make sense? And so that way we understand, because if we're just to look at it linguistically, it seems like it's an optional thing. It's optional for you to go between Safa and Marwa, but we know it's not optional. We know from the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ that it is an obligation. So what does it mean then that there's no harm upon you, meaning there's no sin upon you? You will not be considered as following the distortions of the disbelievers if you're in between them. Any questions on that? Biram, Salina, Tunda, Yusuf, you guys okay? Does that make sense to you guys? Or okay, alhamdulillah. Tamam. So lastly, we're going to talk briefly, very briefly, about the recitations of the Quran. So the recitations of the Quran, there's 10 different recitations. Okay? 10, so we call them al-ashra al-kubra wal-ashra al-sughra. So we have the major and minor recitations of the Quran. So what is the difference between the recitations? It is in all intent and purpose, it is just a slightly different pronunciation of the word, almost like a dialectical pronunciation. So just like if we look at how the British might say a word, okay, the British might say a word in a certain way, and the Irish might say it slightly different, and the Americans or Canadians will say it different. It's all the same word, okay? It's spelled the same, it has the same meaning, but there's different pronunciation of the word, okay? And this is the kind of the dialectical difference, or you might say, or a different recitation. That's all. So the recitations of the Quran, okay, they don't differ in meaning at all, okay? That the meanings are preserved, okay? They might offer a slightly different view or perspective, but nonetheless, as I mentioned to you last week, we look at, for example, some of the recitations that are we say like Malik Yawm al-Din. So when we recite Surah Al-Fatiha, we generally Hafs an Asim, when the prominent recitation today, okay, in the world is Hafs an Asim. Okay, so most of you are reciting Quran on the in the style of Hafs an Asim. Okay, Hafs. So you will say Malik Yawm al-Din. Okay, Malik, he is the owner of the day of recompense. Okay, but there is another recitation from some of the reciters. They would say Maliki Yawm al-Din. So instead of Malik, they would say Malik. Okay, so Malik is a different word. Okay, it doesn't mean ownership; it means kingship. Okay, so he is the king of the day of recompense. Is there a difference between the owner and the king? Not really, because of course the king, in essence, owns. Okay, the king is the owner of his territory, and so. But again, it might give you a slightly different perspective. That's all. But again, the meaning doesn't change. The meaning doesn't change at all. Okay, it's not that you're going to say in this recitation the ayah says this, but in this recitation the ayah says something different. No, never happens. Okay, never happens whatsoever. So for that reason, we have these different. And so again, what it does is adds to the beauty of the Quran and the just the sweetness, especially if you love the Quran. Then it is something beautiful to hear the different recitations of the Quran, and it's like spice, or kind of it allows you to enjoy the Quran in a different way. So it's something you have to experience to understand it a little bit more. So these are the different recitations. There are four from Kufa, which is from an area in Iraq, two from Medina, one in Mecca, two in Basra, another part of Iraq, and one in Asham, which is Syria. So, and they are generally the very famous ones. Nafi', okay, Nafi' is one of the. We have Warsh and Qalun, that they come from Nafi'. So Warsh an Nafi' and Qalun an Nafi'. And so these are very prominent in northern Africa today. And so you will find a lot of people that they recite. So, for example, Libya, there is a very strong recitation or prominence of the Qanun an Nafi' recitation there. You would find that to be a majority. And you would find in Algeria and Morocco the Welsh recitation. Is prominent there. And so to give you again just a little bit of a kind of a concept of it, so that you can understand it a little bit more. We can try to see here a surah that many of you maybe have at least heard, and so you can kind of get a sense for the difference. So if we look at Watini was Zaytun, okay. If we look at how the Welsh would recite it, okay, so the recitation of Welsh, it is different, okay. So most of you know والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. So this is the typical way that we recite it with Hafs, okay, that many of you are familiar with. But if you hear, for example, the way that Welsh would recite it, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والتين والزيتون وطور سينين وهذا البلد الأمين لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم ثم رددناه أسفل سافلين إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات فلهم أجر غير ممنون فما يكذبك بعد بالدين أليس الله بأحكم الحاكمين. So for those, you might have been able to pick up some of the differences. So again, it is a very minor difference, and just different rules of tajweed that are found. But again, for it provides some sweetness, and so some people, they have a great love for one recitation over another, and so forth. Ibn Kathir, the recitation of Ibn Kathir al-Makki. What's interesting that most people don't know that the recitation of Ibn Kathir was the prominent recitation in the Kaaba. Okay, so in Masjid al-Haram for a very, 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 very long time. SubhanAllah, we're talking centuries that the imams there they would recite. So people would come to make Hajj and Umrah. They would be listening to Imam reciting in the recitation of Ibn Kathir. So it is Qumbul and Al-Bazzi, okay, and Ibn Kathir. And then there's the recitation of Abu Amr of Basra, Ibn Amr of Syria at Dimashqi, Asim ibn Abi al-Najud, which is Hafs, the one that we know, and Shu'bah. So there's another recitation called Shu'bah, which is very similar to Hafs. It is the sister of the recitation of Hafs, because they both come from Asim, which is one of the Iraqi, Kufan, one of the Iraqi reciters, Hamza az-Zayyat, and so Hamza so we have Khalaf and Hamza. So the recitation of Khalaf, which is a very, very um, unique and very different recitation, subhanAllah. So if you've ever heard the, if you, so Surah Al-Fatiha with the recitation of Khalaf is very, very different. Okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم ملك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين. So you see the difference. So az-zirat and as well as malik. So and so forth. And so these are again give you a little bit of an understanding of the difference in these. And many of these things you can find these recitations on YouTube if you're interested to hear different recitation. So I definitely recommend you to listen to the recitation of Hamza, which is of Khalaf and Hamza, which is very unique. So these recitations, they have a chain of transmission, like Hadith, going back to the time of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So if you have the fortune of getting an isnad in, or we call it like you get ijaza in the Quran. So that means that you study under a teacher who will pass on certification to you in one of the recitations of the Quran. And so you would have your name, okay, that you learned from your teacher, who learned from his teacher, who learned from, all the way back to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, going and then, but after the Prophet, going back to Jibreel, going back to Allah. Subhanallah. So it's a beautiful chain that a person may have the fortune to have. So the Qurra, or the reciters who give their name to the Qira'ah, are part of a chain of transmission, which is called a riwayah. Okay. And the lines of transmission passed down from a riwayah are called turuq. And so they have difference. And so, for example, Warsh, they have like Tariqat al-Asfahani and so forth. There's different names and so slight differences in style and things like that. So it's an entire, as you can see, it's an entire universe in of itself, and a very beautiful universe of loving the Quran. Any questions on that? I hope I did not bore you with that, and so, but I hope, inshallah, you were able to appreciate some of the beauty in that, and maybe some of you will like to study it in the future, inshallah. And so here, same thing, yes. So it's just the pronunciation difference. That's all. So he's the pronunciation, and this goes back to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there is a kind of I think it's a funny hadith that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was teaching one of the Bedouins some of the Quran, and so he told him hatta heen, until now, okay, which are the Arabic words meaning until now. And this Bedouin, he could not pronounce ha, okay. As you know, many people, especially new Muslims, when they come to Islam, they have difficulty with reading certain or pronouncing certain letters. So the Prophet ﷺ telling him hatta heen, and this Bedouin is saying atta ayn. He's taking the ha and making a ayn, which is completely wrong. But so the Prophet says no, hatta heen, and the Bedouin says atta ayn. He couldn't. So Jibreel came to the Prophet ﷺ, he said atta ayn, like let it go. Alas, it's okay. And so this is what we mean is that that Allah Azza wa Jal, He simplified it. Okay, He simplified it. Now this is, by the way, hatta ayn is not any of the recitations. It is from something we'll talk about later, which is the ahraf. ahruf of the Quran, which is a different subject entirely. But it just shows that how Allah simplified it. Okay, the idea is we're not going to be so tough and specific on on pronunciations. Or the idea, get the meaning and implement it. Okay, at the end of the day, the Quran. Okay, it has to be implemented. Okay, you have some people, and again, we look at the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, at the end of time, there will be people that will come that the recitation does not go below their throat. They recite it beautifully, but they don't implement it. Okay, so the goal is to recite beautifully, yes, but the bigger goal, the ultimate goal, is implementation. Okay, and so that's the kind of the aspect of it. And so some people, they have difficulty maybe with Sod, okay, Sirat, and so it became Zain for some people, Zirat. And so it's like I said, the recitation of Khalaf, for me, I enjoy listening to it a lot. Most people, they do. Most people who study the recitations of the Quran, they enjoy the recitation of Khalaf and Hamza for that reason, because it's very, very unique, and it just allows you to enjoy the Quran in a different way. Here you can see just a chart of the different, you see at the top of the chart is Allah, and then you have Jibreel, and then you have the Prophet ﷺ, and then you have the reciters among the Sahaba, okay, who learned it, and then they transmitted it, and then it's separated out. So you see this kind of chart system. This would be like an ijaza. Okay, so if you have an ijaza in the Quran, then you would have it would be a chain of narrations going all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ, and thereafter to Allah Azza wa Jal, with your name on it. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal, inshallah, to bless you all with ijazah of the Quran and understanding of the Quran and the beautiful recitation of it. Allahumma ameen. The last thing we'll talk about, I'm sorry, I enjoy this so much, I made it very long. Forgive me for making this too long. Um, It's okay, Selena. Remember that it's remember the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ where he said the ones who struggle in their pronunciation, they get a double reward. So keep making the effort. I'll tell you a story that might make you feel better. Okay, it's a very embarrassing story, but maybe my misfortune will make you feel better. So when I was much younger, there was a a doctor that I was interested in his daughter for marriage, and I wanted to impress him. And so I spent the night with him in the hospital. I asked him if I could take call with him, and he said, "Sure, you can come and be on call with me." And so it was Thursday night, going into Friday morning, and so we were awake in the middle of the night, and so he said, "Would you like to pray some, tahajjud?" I said, "Sure." And so he said, "Would you like to lead?" And so I said, "Oh, Mike, this is my opportunity now to impress him, and maybe he will be, more favorable. He will think favorably upon me and let me marry his daughter." And so I read from Surah Al-Kahf, Surah number 18, because of the sunnah of reading it on Friday. And so uh, only later I realized how horrible my recitation was, that my pronunciation was just terrible. Okay, because I went to study with somebody. I went to study with another brother, and he said, "Oh boy, you have a lot of problems, but inshallah, we're going to work on that." And so it took me many years, and until alhamdulillah, I was able to improve my recitation. But hopefully, some story that you might benefit from. So if I can do it, then you can do it. If I can, I didn't. No, I did not impress him at all. I think I humiliated myself in reality. So, but hey, so I don't think you'll do worse than that. So just recognize that if I can do it, so can you. And mashallah, there's some great brothers that I know who accepted Islam, and they struggled a lot in pronunciation. And mashallah, they kept kind of hacking away, and they really developed beautiful, beautiful recitation, mashallah. In fact, one of the most beautiful recitations that I ever heard in my life is from a sheikh who uh, is not Arabic at all and did not grow up speaking Arabic. He learned Arabic in his late, I think in early 20s, in his early 20s. And he has one of the most beautiful recitations and most perfect pronunciations of Arabic, even better than Arabic people, subhanAllah. So it is all about making an effort, and inshallah you will make it happen. So the last part is the types of tafsir. Abdullah ibn Abbas has said that tafsir is of four types. There is the tafsir that the Arab know from their language, and so this shows the importance of the Arabic language. So just having solid understanding of the Arabic language itself will allow a person to understand the Quran better. Okay, to understand it better. Number two, tafsir that no one is excused of being ignorant of, meaning that there are certain things that we all have to know as Muslims. Okay, we all have to understand. For example, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Something like that. Every Muslim has to know that. So it cannot be that you go to a Muslim and say, how many gods do you worship, and he says, I don't know. Okay, we all know that we worship only Allah Azza wa Jal. We only worship one. So there are certain things in the Quran that we all have to understand, we all have to be familiar with. And then number three is the tafsir that the scholars know. Okay, so that's going to be some of the more in-depth elements that maybe it's not going to be apparent, like what we mentioned when I mentioned to you about Safa and Marwa. You may not have known that, but now you do. And then lastly is the tafsir that only Allah Azza wa Jalla knows. And so when we look at for example, we look at the in Surah Ali Imran. Okay, so Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says, هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب منه آيات محكمات هن أم الكتاب وأخر متشابهات فأما الذين في قلوبهم زيغ فيتبعون ما تشابه منه ابتغاء الفتنة وابتغاء تأويله وما يعلم تأويله إلا الله. So we look in this ayah, this is ayah number 7 of surah number 3. Okay. هو الذي أنزل عليك الكتاب. Allah Azza wa Jal, He is the one who sent down upon you the book. From it there are ayat muhkamat, which are clear, and they are clear, and they have rulings. Okay, they're clear. Hunna ummul kitab. And this is the majority of the book. Okay, so the majority of the book there, it is crystal clear. Okay. وَأُخَرُ مُتَشَابِهَات. But there are other ayat in the Quran that are mutashabih. Okay, so they have their meaning is not going to be as clear. Okay, in the sense that they have some they have the understanding of it can be more than one. Okay. فَأَمَّا الَّذِينَ فِي قُلُوبِهِمْ زَيْغٌ. But as regards those who have kind of distortion in their hearts, that which doesn't have that same level of clarity. Okay, the one that is it is a little bit more ambiguous, seeking through that to create division, fitna, and to create their own meaning of it, and the meaning is only known to Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay, the meaning is only known to Allah Azza wa Jal. I'll give you an example. Okay, Alif Lam Mim. What is Alif Lam Mim? Okay, so we find this in multiple surahs in the Quran. Okay, Surah Al-Baqarah begins Alif Lam Mim ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. So what does Alif Lam Mim signify? Exactly, we don't know. Okay, we don't know. There is no clear understanding of that. Okay, so some of the scholars, they said Alif Lam Mim, these are Arabic letters, and so we have this miraculous book which is created from otherwise ordinary letters. So Allah took something ordinary and He made something miraculous out of it. That's a beautiful explanation. And that is one way of looking at it. But is it the meaning? No, it's not necessarily. Okay, so this is something which has ambiguity to it. قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ. Say that Allah is one. There is no ambiguity in that. You cannot make any other meaning. It is clear. Allah is one. There's no two ways to look at it. But Alif Lam Mim, it's not clear. So there was a guy in Arizona, in the United States, okay, who started studying the numerical uh, kind of looking into the Quran from a numerical standpoint, and he discovered something interesting. There used to be an old system, a very old Arabic system, where they used to give um, numerical values to Arabic letters. Okay, so, this letter equals this number, and so forth. So they had like a numbering system that was connected to the letters. So he found out that the word ahad, okay, which means one and only, قُلْ هُوَ اللَّهُ أَحَدٌ, okay, so this word ahad, it's equivalent to 19. And so he said that there is a miracle in the number 19 in the Quran, okay? And when we look for this number 19, we find a lot of this number is represented greatly in the Quran, okay? And it shows there's a numerical kind of, you might say, a lattice structure, okay, behind the words, that there's also this numerical, structure to the Quran, which is truly amazing. It is a miracle that we don't understand, okay? But people with mathematical backgrounds, they are able to penetrate that a little bit more than the average person, and it's truly remarkable that the Quran has this numerical structure, okay, beyond the other verbal miracles that it did, subhanallah. Anyways, so this was something interesting, without a doubt. This is something interesting. And so this guy, he said he started to become arrogant, and he said that he's somebody very special because nobody else knew about this 19 before him, and that means that he is a prophet. And so he basically created his own religion for all intents and purposes, using the Quran and saying that he is actually, so he said the Prophet Muhammad SAW, he is Khatamun Nabiyyin, that he is the seal of the prophets, but not the seal of the messengers, and he's some silly, I don't know, I don't remember exactly what he went into, but one way or the other, he basically said that he's also a prophet, and somebody went and killed him later, so he's dead anyways, and so it's kind of a mute point right now. But nonetheless, the idea here is that he went into this Alif Lam Mim and he tried to explain it. Okay? No, it's not Qadiani. It's some guy in Arizona. Qadianis are, I think, in Pakistan, I believe. Um, his name is Rashad Khalifa or something like that, or something along those lines. But the principle that I want you to understand here is that he delved into this ambiguous, okay, part of the Quran, and he tried to explain it. And in the process, he created division. Okay, he actually created his own religion. Okay, and so Islamically, we don't get into that. And so there are parts of the Quran we say Allahu A'lam. What does this mean? Allahu A'lam. Okay, we don't know. So we're not going to jump in and try to. So there are parts of the Quran. The majority of the Quran is clear, crystal clear. But then we have these other things that we don't understand what it is. Maybe we will understand it in the future. Maybe not. Okay, but so we don't. But we don't delve into it. Okay. So Allah may grant some of the scholars knowledge of that. Okay, or he may not. And so this is the tafsir that Ibn Abbas is talking about. So there are parts of the Quran that Allah only knows. Okay, it is known only to Allah, and that's what I wanted to explain to you. And so we can use the reference of Surah number 3, ayah number 7, as I mentioned to you, that regarding this point, so that there isn't, so that you have a reference point to go back to. All right. And then lastly is how do we make tafsir of the Quran? The tafsir of the Quran is generally done in four levels. Okay. So first, if we're trying to understand the ayah from the Quran, we want to always look for other parts of the Quran that shed light on it. So the tafsir of the Quran by the Quran. Okay. The second would be the tafsir of the Quran by the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. The third would be the sayings of the companions, and fourthly would be by the Arabic language. What book combines all four of these? Which tafsir combines all four of them very nicely? Anybody know? The tafsir of Ibn Kathir. Very good, Farzan. Okay, so Ibn Kathir's tafsir, which is translated in the English language, it's also available for free online. You can download it. The English translation, it can be downloaded for free. If you can't find it, send me a message. I'll send you the link. And but you will see that Ibn Kathir, he approaches the Quran this way exactly. So when he provides the tafsir, okay, Quran, Hadith, sayings of the companions, and language if relevant, okay. And so this is the best way to look at the Quran. It doesn't mean that the other tafsirs of the Quran are deficient. It just shows that his is very comprehensive in that approach. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullahu khair. I don't have the link on me, Zahira, but if you, like I said, it should be very easy to find. You guys are all young and very technically savvy, so I think you could find it. But if you can't find it, let me know and I'll help you, inshallah. Any questions? And I apologize again. I stressed that out, but I love the Quran very, very much, and sometimes I can't stop talking about it. So forgive me. But I hope, inshallah, it was interesting what we discussed, and you got a lot of value out of it, inshallah. I promise I'll make the next ones very much make it shorter, inshallah. All right, so let's take a break. 5, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, inshallah. Actually, no, that was a very long class. I'll give you a 10-minute break so you can stretch your legs and get something to drink and something to eat, or do what it is that you need to do. If anybody has any questions, let me know. In the meantime, I'll be hanging out here.
Assalamu alaikum. Sunnahfollowers, in association with Hadith Institute, presents to you an intensive foundation in Islamic studies. We welcome Dr. Ali Shihada, who will be teaching the science of the Quran and the Hadith every Saturday at 11 a.m. Eastern, streaming right here on Sunnahfollowers.
All right, Bismillah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. I will get started again. Hope you guys had a nice break. Sister Layla, I see your questions. I'm going to get to those right now. Let me just get my screen share going. All right, so your question, Sister Layla, about the surah that was revealed in Mecca and Medina. Um, let's see here. Let's get. So remember that the surahs generally, remember that the surahs are going to have ayat in them that Bismillah, alhamdulillah, salatu ala rasulillah. The surahs themselves will have they will have ayat that are Meccan and other ayat that are Medina. So you might have a surah that was revealed in Mecca, but some of the ayat were revealed in Medina. Okay, but generally the surah itself, because the majority of the ayat were revealed in Mecca, it's considered a Meccan surah, even though some of the ayat may have been revealed. So remember, especially for new Muslims, this is kind of a topic that sometimes can be a little confusing, is remember that as the Quran was being revealed, sometimes you had parts of the Quran that were, so the surahs themselves were not revealed all in one piece. So you'll find so the surahs might have been revealed in pieces, okay? And so as the Prophet ﷺ, he received the revelation, he would tell the companions where that ayah would go. You with me, everybody? So he would tell them, put this ayah in this surah in this place, as an example. Okay? And so, the surahs themselves were not revealed he was like Surah Al-Baqarah was not revealed like, and that big piece, it wasn't 48 pages was not revealed at one time. Everybody else with me? Or people still on break? All right, so everyone's back. All right, so as long as that makes sense, Sister Layla, you can let me know if that answer helps the person who asked the question. The second question was regarding the. I lost it just a moment ago. Should we learn the tafsir in the order the Quran was revealed? No, there is no reason to do that. And so the Quran should be studied. There's different approaches to the study of the Quran. Okay, so you will find that there's a matter of disagreement or just differences of opinion, not disagreement really, but depending on who you ask, they will tell you. Some people might say, no, you should study this part first. And some people will say, no, just go with the Quran the way that it's ordered. I personally am of the opinion that you should study the Quran as we have it, so that you should read the Quran as it is, and you should study the Quran as it is. Just because Surah Al-Baqarah, for example, is a Medina surah, does that mean that there is no tawheed in it, that there's no articles of faith being discussed, that there's no stories of the prophets, there's no discussion of the hereafter? Absolutely not, right? All of these things are found in Surah Al-Baqarah. Remember, Surah Al-Baqarah has everything in it, subhanAllah. Why is it considered the Medinan surah? Because again, the majority of Surah Al-Baqarah there's a heavy amount of rulings in it, okay? But it doesn't mean that none of those other things are there. In fact, we look at the very beginning of Surah Al-Baqarah, some of the most important ayat in the Quran are found there. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. This is the book. And so it establishes for the reader, for the Muslim, that this is not like any other book. Don't treat this book like the Bible. Don't treat it like, like a novel that you pull off of the shelf. This isn't literature. This isn't poetry. Okay? This is the book. If every other book disappeared, this is the one that would suffice. This is the book. And it is a guidance for those who believe, those who have taqwa specifically. Okay? It is a guidance for those that have taqwa. You approach the Quran seeking guidance, seeking to implement the guidance that's found in there, it will be a guidance for you. You approach the Quran like literature, you approach it like a book of poetry, it's not going to be guidance for you. So the Quran has significant. So I personally am of the opinion to go through the Quran as it is. Allahu A'lam, and Allah knows best. Would it be wrong for somebody, for example, to start studying the Quran by going through Juz Amma, the last part of the Quran? No, it's all guidance from Allah Azza wa Jalla. Okay, but where do I tell you to kind of focus? I tell you, like, focus, when you're giving dawah and things like that, focus on those parts of the Quran that talk about those things. So don't jump into somebody's learning about Islam, you jump into rulings. No, we don't do that. Okay. And so I hope that answers that question. And then the last question about um, so the time spent in Mecca was faith building. Yes. So the focus in Mecca was building the faith, um, building the faith of the believers, creating that community. It wasn't about strict rules, and like, it was about building the hearts. It's about establishing the faith in the hearts, so that then you can go about building the outside structure. And this is what's important. And as we look at Islam, that when Jibreel came to teach the Prophet ﷺ and the Muslims Islam, he said, "Tell me about first Islam." Okay, and so you see here that there's acts of submission, okay, which are external, but faith cannot be complete until we build up what's inside. And when we build up what's inside, it automatically makes everything on the outside better. And so that's why it's so important that, when you're working with new Muslims, or you're working with your children, or you're working with people in your family who recently accepted Islam, that you work hard with them on building up their faith, on strengthening them on the inside, so that they can flourish from the outside. Any other questions before we start Hadith? Okay, inshallah. Hopefully those answers were useful for them, inshallah. Okay, so Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah. We will begin with hadith. Okay, so today we're going to talk about hadith structure. So last week we talked about understanding, the different types of hadith collections. Okay, so now we're going to talk today about structure. And I apologize for those that I sent the notes to. Just send me a reminder after today's session. After we're done, because this one's updated a little bit from the ones that I sent you guys. So there's basically three components of any hadith. We look at, and these are important terms again for the student of knowledge to be aware of. So we have the isnad, okay, we have the taraf, and we have the matn. So these three words are important terms to be familiar with. So what do they mean? The isnad is the chain of narrators or the sequence of reporters. So this is the chain of narrators through which the hadith has spread. So you will see, for example, there is something called as-silsila al-dhahabiyya, okay, the golden chain, okay, that Imam Malik has in his book Al-Muwatta. So the golden chain is Malik عن نافع عن ابن عمر عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. So these four. So it is Imam Malik who heard the hadith from Nafi'. Nafi' was the freed slave of Abdullah ibn Umar ibn al-Khattab, the son of Umar ibn al-Khattab, which was Abdullah. So Malik heard it from Nafi', and Nafi' heard that hadith from Abdullah ibn Umar, and Abdullah ibn Umar, he heard it from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So that's called the golden chain, because everybody in that chain is of the highest caliber. And so you got that chain, you have an authentic hadith. Okay, easy. So that's basically the concept of the isnad, and this is something that Islam created. This concept of the isnad did not exist before the Islamic scholarship, and so it's something that's considered one of the great contributions of Islam to literature in a sense. So that's the isnad, and I told you that's a little secret about, or the golden chain that I hope you'll remember, inshallah, in the future. Taraf, which is introductory text. So generally, before we jump right into the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, there is usually some kind of backstory or a question. So, for example, we talked extensively many times now about the Hadith of Jibreel. Okay, so the Hadith of Jibreel, where Jibreel comes to ask the Prophet ﷺ questions. Okay, so how does that Hadith begin? It begins that the companions were sitting around the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ when somebody entered their, the tent where they were all sitting, and he drew attention to himself, and so when everybody looked back at him, they saw this man who had extremely white clothes, very brilliant, clean white clothes, and his hair was black, like he just came out of the shower, like very dark black, okay, clean. So you think about it, that they said, and we didn't know him, but there was no signs of travel upon him. All of this is what to draw the attention of the companions. So this guy is not known, so he's not from in town, but he didn't travel. Look how clean he is. He's so clean. Okay. And then it talks about how he worked his way up to the Prophet. He walked between the people until he came and he sat right in front of the Prophet ﷺ, and he put his hands upon the leg of the Prophet ﷺ. And then he asked him the three questions. The first question was, tell me, what is Islam? And after the Prophet ﷺ told him what is Islam, he said, you have answered correctly. And the companion said, we were surprised. Who is this person that nobody knows? That he comes to the Prophet ﷺ and he asks the Prophet a question, and then he tells the Prophet that he answered correctly. So all of this was to get the attention. So this is taraf. All this, what I'm talking about right now is taraf, which is the introductory text. Okay, so this is the beginning of the text, which refers to the to what comes later. Okay, the actions or the characteristics of the Prophet ﷺ. And then matan is the content. Okay, this is the text of the hadith or the actual speech of the Prophet ﷺ, the Prophet ﷺ statement. Okay, that is called the matan. Okay, matan. And so these are the three components. And so anytime you're listening to a scholar talk about hadith and explain hadith, these components will be mentioned. Okay, questions on that? There are five basic divisions of hadith, okay, or categorizations, you might say. So we can look at a hadith according to reference, okay. Actually, hold on 1 second. So we can look at a hadith according to the reference to a particular authority. That's the first way of looking at hadith. We can look at according to the links of isnad, the sequence of reporters. We can look at it according to the number of reporters. And I'm going to change this order. Because we're going to look at it in this order. So according to number of reporters, according to the links of the isnad, the sequence of reporters. Number 4, according to the nature of the matan, the content of the hadith and its chain. Or lastly, according to authenticity of correspondence, okay, corresponding hadith. So this is the difference, the divisions that we're going to look at. So again, this is essentially how we're going to study the hadith. So just like we've been talking about, just a categorization that helps us to learn, or helps us to understand. Farzana, your question. So anything the narrator says about hadith or feels about what was said is taraf. Yes. Okay. So the taraf is generally the narrator's statements or providing kind of the backstory. So these are the basic divisions of the hadith, and so we're going to look at them individually, but not all of them today. Today we're going to mainly look at 1 and 2. Okay, we're going to look at the reference to a particular authority and the number of reporters. So when we look at according to hadith, according to reference to a particular authority, we get these 4 different types of hadith. Okay, that you should be familiar with. These are important terms that you will hear a lot if you are studying hadith. The first is Hadith Qudsi, which all of you have heard. Hadith Qudsi means divine. Okay, it is a divine hadith. And so these are narrations or hadith in which Allah's speech is reported. Allah speaks in this hadith. Okay? So this is a revelation directly from Allah to the Prophet. So the Prophet generally is narrating the speech of Allah, okay, to his companions. Right? So what's the difference between Hadith Qudsi and Quran then? Because the Quran is the same. This is a revelation from Allah to the Prophet ﷺ. This is Allah's speech. So the Hadith Qudsi is Allah's speech, and the Quran is Allah's speech. So what is the difference? No, in the Hadith Qudsi, it's not the Prophet's words. It is Allah's speech. It is Allah's words. قال الله تعالى. Allah has said. And so it's not, the Prophet ﷺ is not paraphrasing it. It is Allah's speech. And that's why typically you find that the Hadith Qudsi occupies a special place between Quran and Hadith. Some people, they categorize it as being something between Quran and Hadith. No, not the meaning. So this is Allah's speech as He said it. So the Prophet is not paraphrasing. He is reporting the speech of Allah in exactly the same way that the Quran is. So in this regards, there's no difference. Allah's speech is in the Quran, Allah's speech in the Hadith Qudsi, they're the same. It is Allah's words as He said them. But Hadith Qudsi is not Quran. Why? So the scholars, they said three reasons. Okay, first of all, the Hadith Qudsi does not carry the reward. Okay, does not carry the reward of the Quran. Okay, so the Quran, when you read every letter, you will get 10 hasanat, you'll get 10 rewards for the recitation of every letter. So Alif Lam Mim is not one letter, it is 3 letters. Okay, so for every letter of the Quran, you get hasanat, you get 10 rewards. All right. Secondly, the Quran can be recited in the prayer. Okay, the Quran, we recite it in the prayer. But Hadith Qudsi cannot be recited in the prayer. All right. And number 3, okay, which we're going to come to in a moment. I will explain this word to you soon. The Quran is mutawatir. It has been narrated from multiple, chains. Okay, that it's so many narrations, so many reports that are all in agreement that they cannot be wrong. Okay, so the Quran has been narrated. So the Quran, all of it is sahih. Okay, there is no part of the Quran except that it is authentic. There is no such thing as an ayah which is weak or an ayah which has weakness. That doesn't exist. So the Quran, all of it is authentic. Whereas the Hadith Qudsi, there is some hadith, just because it is a hadith, it can be an authentic hadith, it can be a good hadith, it can have a weakness to it, it can be a fabrication, all of those things. Okay? So those are the 3 differences, the major differences between Quran and Hadith Qudsi. So again, number 1, it doesn't carry the reward and the blessing of reading Quran. Number 2, it cannot be recited in the prayer. Number 3, okay, it doesn't have the level of authenticity that the Quran has. Okay, meaning that the Hadith Qudsi, they come in various degrees of authenticity. Any questions on that? Is that clear? So I hope everybody's clear on this, inshallah. If you guys aren't, let me know. Tamam. So that's Hadith Qudsi, that's number 1. So then we look at the marfu' hadith, the marfu'. Okay, so marfu', coming from the Arabic word, okay, rafa'a, it means elevated, okay, elevated. So these are hadith which were directly heard from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by his companions. These are hadith which were directly heard from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam by his companions. Okay. Would you say that this is the majority of the hadith literature would be marfu', or the minority of the hadith literature would be marfu'? So what would be the majority then, if this is the minority? So marfu' is the statement of a prophet. The Prophet ﷺ was heard and reported by his companions. So not exactly Farzan, not the exact actions. Majority of hadith are statements. Even when there's actions of the Prophet ﷺ, it's often accompanied by statements. And so, we look at, for example, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli," that pray as you have seen me pray. And so the Prophet ﷺ is directing us to his actions, but there is a statement as well. So if the marfu' is a minority, okay, what would be the majority? So with the typical hadith that we narrate, what would it be? So in the Hadith, for example, we say Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, he heard from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that whoever among you sees an evil, he should try to change it by his hand. Okay, so this is what category? This is marfu'ah, right? It is marfu'ah. So the majority of hadith, the majority of what we see in Sahih al-Bukhari and Sahih Muslim, and the ones we talk about, the majority of them we're talking about marfu'ah. That's what I want you to understand. They are not the minority, they are the majority. Because it is a companion who is who is telling us, I heard the Prophet ﷺ say this. So that is the standard. You might say standard hadith is marfu'ah. Clear? Alhamdulillah. Zahira? Alhamdulillah, good to know. Yusuf, you're with us? All right, so we have that is marfu'. That is going to be the standard. Okay, mawquf. Okay, comes from waqafa, which means to stop. Okay, so it is stopped. Okay, mawquf hadith is stopped. It is a kind of command which was directly given by the Prophet ﷺ to his companions who forwarded it. Okay, so they will the command is reported, but they don't say it came from the Prophet ﷺ. So it is a companion telling us that we were instructed to do the following. Okay, but they don't give the statement of the Prophet ﷺ. They won't say, "I heard the Prophet ﷺ say the following statement." They will say, "No, we were commanded to do the following." Okay, so you will find that this is a minority, okay, of the hadith minority, okay, because it has that ambiguity to it, and so it'll be a minority. Maqtu'a, okay, qata'a, from to be cut off or to be severed. Okay, it is a form of instruction which cannot be traced back to the Prophet ﷺ, but it is traced back to one of his companions who explained it in their own words. So this is essentially a companion explaining an instruction of the Prophet ﷺ, but in their own words. Okay, so it means maqtu'a. So it cannot go back to the Prophet. The link between the companion and the Prophet ﷺ is cut. Okay, because they're not quoting the Prophet ﷺ. Clear? I know these terminologies can be. So mawquf is a command which doesn't come with the specific statement or like quote. So the quote is going to be the marfu'ah only. I heard the Prophet ﷺ say the following. So the last one, maqtu'a, okay, it is essentially paraphrasing the statement of the Prophet ﷺ, paraphrasing it, okay. But they never said, I heard from the Prophet ﷺ this. If he said, I heard, and then he paraphrases it, it's going to be which kind? If a companion said, I heard the Prophet ﷺ say, but then he paraphrases it, he doesn't give marfu'. Marfu' is going to be a quote, never a paraphrase. I heard the Prophet ﷺ say this. So giving it as a direct quote, that's marfu'. But if the companion says the Prophet ﷺ told him to do something, but he doesn't report the words of the Prophet ﷺ, he only says the Prophet ﷺ told us to do the following, it would be mawquf. Okay, Maqtu' is, he doesn't mention the Prophet ﷺ at all, but it is understood that this is coming from the Prophet, but the companion didn't say it. So it cannot be traced back to the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, why? Because the companion never said, "I heard from the Prophet ﷺ this." Okay, but what we see is one of the companions saying, doing something or saying something, which the knowledge of it can only come from the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, not their perception. Okay, but it is their action. Okay, generally, so their action. Yes, mawquf and maqtu' are both going to be paraphrasing, but one of them, it goes back to the Prophet ﷺ, but it doesn't go back to him in quote, as a quote. So we cannot quote the Prophet ﷺ on that. But the maqtu', there is no clear statement that this is coming from the Prophet ﷺ, but we understand it to be the case because of the fact that it is a knowledge that can only come from the Prophet ﷺ. Yes, from the knowledge of the unseen or of the hereafter, things of that nature. So if a companion was to say, for example, that anybody who does this, then he will be punished in the hereafter. A companion is not going to say that on his own, right? Where would he get that information? Yes, here I will give examples, inshallah. So a companion says that whoever does this action, they will be punished in the hereafter. He has to have gotten it from the Prophet ﷺ. A companion cannot make up a statement like this. It must be coming from the Prophet ﷺ. So, but there's going to be some weakness in it, right? There's going to be some weakness because it doesn't have the quote to the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, and so we'll talk about that later, how this impacts the strength of the hadith. But I'm just trying to help you become familiar with the terminology. Saleen, are you with us? Tinda, I also want to make sure you understand. Is it clear? I know it's a complex concepts. Good, Hannah. I thought you were. I didn't want to ask you in case you were working, Hannah, but I'm glad you're back. Marfu', it means elevated. So rafa. So it means it is elevated to the level of the Prophet ﷺ. So it goes back. The statement is, you can almost imagine a statement. Kind of, if you imagine a chain going vertically, Farzana. Okay. So if we start, the Prophet ﷺ is at the top, and the last person in the narration, okay, is at the bottom. Okay, so the statement rises all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. Does it make sense, Farzana? So it rises from the last person all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ. But if it is stopped, okay, it rises only to the level of the companion. Okay, we can't it can't go all the way back to the Prophet ﷺ, okay? But it is understood. Maqtu' means it's completely cut. There isn't there like there is no, the Prophet ﷺ is not in that chain at all. Yes, Ayatul Kursi can be recited in prayer because it's from the Quran, right? So anything in the Quran can be recited in prayer. But we're talking now about hadith. So these are statements of the Prophet ﷺ, and among the statements of the Prophet ﷺ are those which quote Allah. There is a direct quote to Allah. So Allah's statement is mentioned in the hadith. Or the hadith, it could be the whole of the hadith is a statement from Allah. But these are not, you cannot recite them in prayer. But anything in the Quran, of course, the Quran, all of it can be recited in prayer. The start to finish. So please let me know if you understand that question. I'm sorry, understand that answer, if I've answered it, you know, adequately and made it clear to you. All right, so hopefully that's all clear for you guys. Okay, تمام, alhamdulillah, good. All right. So now we're going to go to the second category. Okay, so back to this, right? So we talked about reference to a particular authority. Now we're going to look at reference to number of reporters. Okay. So that's one. The next one is going to be number of reporters, and so the categorization according to the number of reporters. And so this can be divided into two groups. Okay, so there's two categories here under this. So there's the category of mutawatir and ahad. Mutawatir and ahad. Okay, so mutawatir is the important, both of the terms are very, very important. Mutawatir is a very critical term for you to understand because this is what I mentioned to you about Quran. So mutawatir means consecutive. Okay, consecutive. So hadith being reported by such a large number of righteous companions that it is agreed upon as authentic. Not rightful, sorry. All right, so mutawatir hadith is narrated by so many people. Okay, so many people made the exact same statements, either with no difference or very, very minor difference. They maybe one word difference or a couple of words difference or something like that in long hadith, but they all reported the same quote. Okay, so many people reported the same quote. Then we say that it's impossible that all of these people they conspired to lie. So many people they reported it individually. They reported the same thing that it is thereupon agreed that it is authentic. Okay. Now again, it's not just a lot of people reporting the same statement, but it is a lot of righteous people who are known to have a good memory. Okay, who all say the same thing. Then this is a mutawatir hadith. So this is the strongest form of hadith, the highest level of authenticity. So Sahih has, subcategories. Okay, so an authentic hadith can be subcategorized further. The authentic hadith, the Sahih Mutawatir, the authentic hadith which is consecutively reported by large numbers of people, that is the strongest level of hadith. Okay. The Quran is considered mutawatir, even though we're not talking about hadith now, we're talking about Quran, but the Quran itself is mutawatir. So many people, okay, righteous people, they all were in agreement upon the text of the Quran, that it is inconceivable that can be a lie. So this is mutawatir. Okay? Ahad means isolated. Okay? Hadith which has been narrated by a small number of people. Okay, small number of people. Excuse me, one moment. It could be one, but it doesn't have to be one. It may just be a small number of people. We're going to talk about Sorry about that, you guys. Just had a phone call. So Mawquf, if we go back for the question from YouTube, so let's go back to so Mawquf. Uh, this is the categorization. So it means stopped. Okay, so it comes from the Arabic word waqafa. So it is a command which was directly given by the Prophet to his companions who forwarded it, meaning that they kind of paraphrased it. So it is not a quote. Okay, it's not a direct quote from the Prophet ﷺ, but it is something which is referenced back to the Prophet. So they will say, the companion would say, the Prophet ﷺ sent me to do this. Okay, but he won't give the words of the Prophet. Okay, so I hope that's clear. If it's not, let me know. I'll try to explain it further. But it is something which definitely goes back to the Prophet, but doesn't go back to the Prophet ﷺ as a quote. So, so mutawatir and ahad. Hopefully, we are clear on those. And so, mutawatir, large number of people. So, many, many, many people who are righteous, who are agreed upon, who agree upon the quote or the text. And ahad is isolated, meaning a smaller number of people, a very small number of people are narrating it. Okay, so to give specifics now, okay, Allah Azza wa Jal, for example, in one second. Sorry, guys, let me just need to reply to this message. 1 second. I have a patient who has some concerns, so forgive me for that. All right, thank you guys for your patience. I appreciate that. So the word tawatur, it comes in the Quran, where Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says in Surah Al-Mu'minun, Surah 21, Ayah 44, ثم أرسلنا رسلنا تترى. Okay, tatra. This is the coming. It has is basically the same root of tawatur. Okay, then we sent our messengers in succession. ثم أرسلنا رسلنا تترى. Okay, so this idea of consecutive or being in succession, okay? So in the definition of the word, okay, it's specifically in Islam, okay? So we look at not the Arabic word, but the Islamic technical meaning of the word mutawatir. What is reported by a number of narrators in every level of the chain, so much so that it is inconceivable that they collaborated to perpetuate a lie. Okay, that is the Islamic definition of the word mutawatir. It is something that is reported by such a large number of narrators, okay, in every level of the chain, so much so that it is inconceivable that they collaborated to perpetuate a lie. So, for example, if I take you guys in this class, right, okay, so let's say you guys are you're all sitting in class, okay, so and then each of you, okay, what we talk, okay, so we would say Farzana, okay, reports from Farzana or reports from Dr. Ali, okay, and then Hannah is the same thing. So the mother of Hannah reports from Hannah, reports from Dr. Ali. And Iram, She reported her, the mother of Iram reports from Iram, who reports from Dr. And all these reports, they're the same quote, the same text, the same words. It's inconceivable that so many people were having like so many, it's the same kind of thing. It's inconceivable that it could be a lie. Okay. And so that's what we call mutawatir. And that's why in the authentic hadith, it would be the highest level of authenticity. All right. Questions on that? Or that's pretty easy, right? Not too complicated. The concept of mutawatir is easy. Easier than the others. Mawquf and marfu' and maqtu' it's not not as easy. So don't feel bad that you didn't understand, or that inshallah you all understand now, but it's a little bit harder. So the conditions of tawatur, okay, what are the conditions of a mutawatir hadith? It should be narrated by many. There's no specific number. To have this number in every level of the chain, okay, and it is these are people who are known to be righteous, that they are known to be trustworthy, they are known to be honest people, that it is not possible that they were liars. And number 4, to report something with their senses, okay, so that something that we heard from the Prophet ﷺ, we saw the Prophet ﷺ doing, that type of thing, okay. So those are the conditions of mutawatir. The types of mutawatir, there's more than one type, okay? So there's mutawatir in wording, okay? Okay, so the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man kadhaba alayya muta'ammidan falyatabawwa maq'adahu min an-nar." Whoever lies upon me, whoever lies about me, okay, intentionally, then let him choose his seat in the hellfire. Whoever lies about me intentionally, then let him choose a seat in the hellfire. So that is why this hadith, as an example, is mutawatir. Many people, there's a large number of companions, they reported this hadith. And so, and the meaning of it as well is important, because this is why some companions, they didn't take the risk. They said, I don't trust my memory, and I don't want to lie about the Prophet ﷺ, so better I be quiet rather than say something that I'm not sure about. And so there's also mutawatir in meaning. Okay, so the concept of wiping over the socks in wudu. Okay, this is mutawatir. It's been narrated by huge numbers of companions. We're talking, I think, well over, I'm not going to say specifics, but a very, very large number of companions that they reported this. Individually, each one individually reported it, and the reports are all similar, okay? The reports of the intercession on the Day of Judgment, the report of the second coming of Isa alayhi salam, regarding lifting the hands for dua, all of these things are reported by huge numbers of companions. So again, we would not. So this is mutawatir in regards to meaning, and others in regard to wording. Okay. So the hadith about Isa alayhi salam, the second coming of Jesus, for example, the wording may be different, okay, but they all agree on concept, all right, that he's coming. But there are other hadith which are the wording itself, they all agreed upon wording. They all quoted the Prophet ﷺ with the exact same words. And so this is just the concept of the tawatur, okay? So A heard from B, who heard from C, who heard from D. And then you have another chain where E heard from F, who heard from G, heard from H, but they all say the same thing. Okay, and that's the whole idea, is the chains sometimes are different. So that's a different companion, and the people who heard from that companion are different people, okay, but they all have the same statements. So as I told you, like in this class, okay, that you have 8 students in this class, and you all told your mother, okay, and we gathered the mothers together, and they all said the same quote. Right, so that strengthens. That's a strong statement, because it says, "Wow, everybody's in agreement." Okay, that means all the students in the class, they all they all wrote down the statement correctly, okay, and accurately, and they reported it accurately. And so then it shows that then it's very, you would say, oh, for sure, that statement was made in the class because they all said it. It's not conceivable that all the students got together to tell a lie to their mothers. Make sense? Tunda, Iram, Hannah, Selena, Layla, let me know if there's anything going on with your streams. Hopefully, inshallah, it's clear to them as well. All right, so now we're going to go to the second category. Okay, so remember, let's go back really quick. Okay, we're talking about we're talking about hadith categorized according to the number of reporters. So mutawatir is many, ahad is isolated, small number of people. Okay, so if we look at ahad, so linguistically, it means solitary. Linguistically, it doesn't mean that technically. So ahad hadith does not mean it was mentioned only by one person. No, it means that mentioned by a small number of people. Could only be two, maybe three, something like that. It does not fulfill the conditions of mutawatir, so it would not fulfill these conditions here. It would not be narrated by many. Okay, and usually it's so it wouldn't necessarily have to have something to do with the senses either. Okay, so there are three subtypes of ahad hadith. We have mashhur, aziz, and gharib. Okay, so mashhur means technically, linguistically, it means famous. Okay, so someone who is mashhur is a famous person. Okay, a hadith which is related by more than two individuals from each generation. Okay, so that means we have two companions at minimum, as well as two tabi'een. Okay, the students of the companions, which are called the successors. Okay, as well as two people from atba' at-tabi'een, the successors of the successors. Okay, or the students of the companions. So that would be mashhur. So you see here, it sounds strange, right? Because we're just saying it has to be at least two people. You wouldn't think two would be famous, right? But we're talking about, again, the categories of ahad hadith. Okay, these hadith by themselves are limited, and that they're limited narration. Aziz means rare yet strong. A hadith having only two reporters in its isnad. Okay, only two reporters in its isnad. Okay, so there's only two people in the chain going and going back to the Prophet ﷺ. So it is a successor hearing from a companion, and that's it. Okay. And then gharib would be strange, which is a saying of the Prophet ﷺ with only one narrator in its isnads. Okay, one narrator, and so when we're saying that two reporters, we're talking about two companions essentially. Okay, so it could be the chain itself could have 8, 9, 10 people. Okay, but the chain ends only in two companions. So I'm going to say that again because to make sure you guys understand that. Okay, mashhur is going to be more than two. Aziz is going to be two. Gharib is going to be one. What we're talking about here when we say more than two or one, we're talking about what? We're talking about the companion who heard it from the Prophet ﷺ. Okay, so the chain can be as many people as necessary, but what we're talking about here when we're categorizing this, we're talking about how many companions reported the hadith. So if we look at mutawatir, you might have 10 or 15 or 20 or in some cases 50, okay, different companions reporting something. But in the ahad hadith, that they're a very small number, okay, they're isolated, all right, so it may only be 3 or 2 or 1. Is that clear? If you need to hear it again, it's okay. Alhamdulillah. Farzan, I hope it's clear for you as well. And Iram, let me know. You will see a lot of gharib, this statement mentioned in Tirmidhi. Okay, so Sunan Tirmidhi, you'll find that هذا حديث غريب. Okay, you'll find Tirmidhi, the collector of the hadith, that he mentions a lot of there are a number of ahad hadith in his collection, which are gharib, meaning that it's only one narrator. So even if it's only one narrator, it's still sufficient. Okay, it's still sufficient. It can still have authenticity, okay, even if it is only reported by one. That does not affect the, you know, the uh, the strength of the hadith necessarily. Okay, so here is an example of a mashhur hadith, and so it has at least 3 narrators, less than 10. Okay, عن عبد الله ابن عمرو ابن العاص قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إن الله لا يقبض العلم انتزاعا ينتزعه من العباد ولكن يقبض العلم بقبض العلماء حتى إذا لم يبق عالما اتخذ الناس رؤوسا جهالا فسئلوا فأفتوا بغير علم فضلوا وأضلوا. Okay, so in this hadith, okay, it is an authentic hadith, but it is mashhur in its categorization. So it is an ahad type of hadith, and the subcategory of ahad is mashhur, okay, because it has at least 3 narrators. And so the hadith is narrated from the companion Abdullah ibn Amr ibn al-As, who said, I heard from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam his statement that Allah will not remove knowledge from the people by taking it away from his servants, but he removes, or he will take up knowledge back to him by the death of the scholars. Okay, so that means what? That we didn't study, we didn't learn from the scholars, and so they passed away, and that knowledge is now cut off from us. So that is the Allah lifting up that knowledge. Okay, and so when the scholars have passed away, then the only thing that will remain, okay, that the people will take ignorant ignorant leaders, to be, to ask them, okay, to try to take knowledge from them. So they will ask them, and these ignorant leaders will give them rulings not based on knowledge. So they will be misled, and they will cause others to be misled. Okay, so this famous hadith, or the well-known hadith, is a ahad mashhur hadith. Okay, hadith which is only 2 narrators. Okay, حدثنا يعقوب ابن إبراهيم قال حدثنا ابن علي عن عبد العزيز ابن صهيب عن أنس عن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم. وحدثنا آدم قال حدثنا شعبة عن قتادة عن أنس قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى أكون أحب إليه من والده وولده والناس أجمعين. So in this hadith, we see here that there's 2 chains of narration that are presented here, if you were following. And so both chains, they end in the companion Anas ibn Malik, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. But they go through, so in one chain, it's an Qatada an Anas, and in the other, it is an Abdul Aziz ibn Suhaib an Anas. So there's 2 separate, 2 different successors here, tabi'in, who are both narrating from the same companion. Okay, and so we see the two here. And so it narrates the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, his statement, none of you truly believes until I am more beloved to him than his parents and his children and all of mankind. Okay, what does that mean? Does that mean that we shouldn't love our kids and we shouldn't love our parents? In what sense? The Prophet should be more beloved in what sense? Remember that love is connected to obedience. Okay? Love is connected to obedience. So exactly, and following his sunnah. So we love the Prophet ﷺ more than our family in the obedience. And so if a woman, her husband tells her, I want you to do, if you love me, I wish that you would wear makeup when we go outside so that people will compliment you. She would not obey him because she will say, "You were asking me to do something that, or if he's telling her, don't wear your hijab," as a more clear example. You're a beautiful woman. I want people to admire your beauty. She will say, then even I love you as my husband, but I'm not going to obey because you're asking me to disobey Allah. So we don't obey our family above the in opposition to the Sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So an example of a hadith غريب. Okay, حدثنا الحميدي عبد الله ابن الزبير قال حدثنا سفيان قال حدثنا يحيى ابن سعيد الأنصاري قال أخبرني محمد بن إبراهيم التيمي أنه سمع علقمة ابن وقاص الليثي يقول سمعت عمر ابن الخطاب رضي الله تعالى عنه على المنبر قال سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول إنما الأعمال بالنيات وإنما لكل امرئ ما نوى فمن كانت هجرته إلى دنيا يصيبها أو إلى امرأة ينكحها فهجرته إلى ما هاجر إليه. So this is a gharib narration, okay, of the very famous hadith, which is otherwise mutawatir, okay. So in this case, the tawatur of the hadith, إنما الأعمال بالنيات, that actions are judged according to their intentions, the tawatur of that hadith comes in the quotation, that people all mentioned the same quote, okay? So it was consecutively reported by a large number of companions, more than 10, that was the same quote. But here we have a gharib narration, okay? It is kind of unusual narration, where it is narrated by the same companion, okay? Umar ibn Khattab, who narrated the well-known version, okay? But in this case, Waqqas al-Laythi, he narrates that he heard Umar ibn Khattab on the pulpit saying that he heard the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam say, indeed, all actions are judged according to their intentions, and everyone will have what they intended. So whoever made a hijrah or migration for a worldly purpose or to marry a woman, then his hijrah will be according to what he intended. So so there were some components left out from the famous narration. Okay, so but this is so that you will not find another narration like this. Okay, but nonetheless, it is authentic. All the people in the chain are good. They're trustworthy people, and so it is an authentic narration, even though it is not the mutawatir one. Okay, so the status of ahad hadith, they can be qat'i, and the mutawatir is definitive, whereas the ahad can be dhanni or speculative. Okay, and that's basically it. That is we're going to end on that note. So here there's a book قطوف الأزهار المتناثرة في الأخبار المتواترة. So this is some of the a collection of hadith that are mutawatir that this author collected. But that is basically what we have for today's session of hadith. Any questions on that? I think I tired you guys out. Are you guys too tired? Or should we leave the third session for another day, or do you have enough gas in the tank for the last session? Or did I put everyone to sleep? It looks like I put everyone to sleep. No, the wording is not. So when we look at here, we're looking at um, the wording of that hadith. We're looking at the complete wording. So yes, part of the hadith is mutawatir. You're right. If we're going to look at it um, from a component standpoint, then yes, you're right. But the whole of the hadith, it is an unusual narration. It is not the typical narration of that hadith. So for that reason, it is hadith. I think because you guys are, yeah, it's. I think you guys would. I think because most of you are attending the tafsir with Sheikh Hassam as well, right? And so you guys have been going for several hours, I think. So, um, so then, inshallah, then what we can do is, I think the next week, right? There won't be tafsir, so you guys should be. Hopefully, it'll be a better time. And if there is a better time for all of you guys, if you would like to do it later, that is also if that would be better. I'm not sure. What time is it where everybody is right now? So I know Sister Layla is on U.S. time with Tunda. Oh, he's going to continue the tafsir for one more weekend into next Saturday as well. Oh, okay, subhanallah. Which status, Sister Layla? But otherwise, inshallah, I'll make a bigger effort, inshallah. Um, Zahira, thank you for that. That's very kind of you. But since I think everybody seems to me that there is some a general agreement that everyone's tired, I'm happy to continue as well. But I don't want to. I don't want to wear people out. We can always do we can do 2 sessions of usul next week, inshallah. I think the usul is another 30 minutes, and so it's up to you guys. If you want to do the last 30 minutes, we'll do it. But usul is complicated, as you guys remember from last week. It's complicated, so if you guys are type, um, that would be we can do it next week, inshallah. Together, we can do 2 sessions next week. So, so the status of ahad hadith. So the status. So remember that ahad hadith, they can be mutawatir, generally they're going to be highly authentic. Okay, ahad hadith, on the other hand, there can be the authentic as well as the weak. So a mutawatir, there you will never find a mutawatir hadith which is weak, because by definition it has to be mutawatir has to be a large number of righteous people who are people that have good memory and so forth, and so mutawatir is always going to be authentic, whereas the ahad hadith can be authentic and they can be also weak. I hope that answers that question. So before, if we're going to stop here, inshallah, just is the pacing okay? Am I going too slow, or is the pacing okay for you guys? I know that we're dealing with some pretty complicated things, and so I want to make sure again that not only that we're going through it in the right way, but we're going through it in a way that's that you can understand it, and that there's enough examples, and I'm not losing you in the complexities. If there's something that I can do better, please let me know. It is. That's why I'm kind of taking a little bit slow, Zahira, because it is a lot for. Oh, I'm happy to speak English. Do the other people speak Chinese or something? But alhamdulillah, if you guys like the pace, alhamdulillah, it's good. But if there's something I can do better, let me know. And uh, okay. I would like to speak. I agree. Sometimes there's too much Arabic, and it can be very confusing, especially in this format. Especially with people who are still trying to get a grasp on it. So, alhamdulillah, I'm glad that I'm not overdoing it on the Arabic, so that people can kind of comprehend. All right, thank you, Selena. All right. Well, if you guys, I'll continue to try to keep the same pace, and so, inshallah, then I'll try really hard to make sure that we condense next week, so that make sure we get our usul al-fiqh together. And if not, it's okay. We can always have a special day, maybe one day to catch up, like a catch-up day or something like that. I don't mind doing that. So. But for now, I'll let you guys go, inshallah. Thanks for your participation and your attention. May Allah Azza wa Jal bless you, inshallah, and make this easy for you to understand and cause it to be of benefit to you in this life and in the hereafter. Allahumma ameen. Subhanaka Allahumma bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakum Allah khairan jami'an, inshallah. May Allah reward all of you and bless all of you and increase you in knowledge and increase you in closeness to Him. And cause us all to be the examples, inshallah, for this deen. And so, inshallah, we'll see you guys next Saturday. Inshallah ta'ala. All right. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Have a good day. Or good night for those of you who are where it's 3 a.m.
is which. I forgot which computer is which. This is, can y'all hear me on YouTube? Sister Fatima, can y'all hear on YouTube? Because I forgot which computer is which. Wait a minute. Can y'all hear me on YouTube? Sister Fatima, can y'all hear on YouTube? Oh, I think I can. What am I on? I'm on YouTube there? Hold on. Okay. Hold on. I'm trying to get it together. I'm working different computers.
Yeah, I can hear you on YouTube.
So I got the other, I don't know which computer. Oh, okay. All right, guys. So for those of you on YouTube, alhamdulillah, I hope y'all enjoyed this class. Y'all see, I told you Dr. Ali's English is good. He's not using a lot of Arabic terms. And when he does use Arabic, as you guys can see, he breaks it down and tells you what it means in English because he has excellent English. So that's good. Okay, so the next class, I want y'all to pay attention to the schedule. We got a lot of classes today. We got Dr. Asim in 1 hour. Dr. Asim's doing the Mirage class. Let me tell y'all what Dr. Asim wants y'all to do. Tonight, what he's going to do on his class, Reflections of the Quran, he said he's going to speak about how the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam went on that journey, how he went on his journey through the different heavens and how he experienced different things that helped to increase his faith after going through such a hardship in life. So what Dr. Asim wants from all of you is this. He wants you to speak about your journey. Remember the fitra, the inner light within our heart, which used to be attached to the soul when our souls were in paradise. The fitra is trying to find its way back to Allah. So what Dr. Asim wants from you guys is for you to write something brief, talk about a brief little thing about your journey of faith, your journey back to Allah. Some of the adversaries, some of the struggles, some of the hardships that you've encountered in your journey back to Allah. Like the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam experienced so much hardship. His wife had just died. His uncle had just died. The people turned against him. He had no support, no protection. He felt alone. We talked about loneliness, how that's one of the negative characteristics of Shaitan that our personal jinn will try to use to take us out. Okay. He was going through depression. He felt himself sinking into depression. Like we talked about yesterday, you got to pull yourself up out of that depression. Well, Allah took him on that journey to pull him up out of that depression and to let him know that he's not alone, to let him know that his trials are no different than what the prophets that came before him went through. So how does that relate to you? When your personal jinn tries to make you feel like you're all alone, make you feel that there's no help, make you feel that no one understands what's going on with you, because that's what our jinn wants to do to us. How do you overcome it? What do you do to overcome that sadness, that loneliness, that depression? What do you do to overcome that and not find yourself sinking into the pitfalls that can extinguish the light of your fitra? This is what Dr. Asim wants today at 3:00. Does everybody understand? I mean, prayers on everybody. Y'all understand what he wants? I don't know if they can hear me on Zoom. Am I even?
Yes.
Am I on Zoom?
Yes, you are.
Because I don't know where I'm at. I'm on so many computers. I don't know what's up. But that's what Dr. Asim texted me. That's what he wants y'all to talk about. Your personal journey towards Allah. Something, what do you do to pick yourself up. We all go through that. I went through it yesterday, but alhamdulillah, I got picked up. I picked myself up yesterday. Yeah. So that's what he wants at 3. And also tonight, guys, we have my class at 6 o'clock, Diluting Well Better. And also at 7:30, we have another fiqh class with Brother Hanif. Brother Hanif will be speaking about, he's going to go over a hadith. I think, what is he doing? Riyadh Salihin or something. He's going to go over the meaning of a hadith with you and speak a little bit about it. And then he's going to go over some of the rules of marriage and divorce. That's at 7:30. And then also tonight, Dr. Dramali will be doing dream interpretation. Did you guys see my post on that? For anyone who wants to have a dream that you've had interpreted, Dr. Jamali is asking that you join the Zoom room so you can get on the microphone, so you can give him the details so he can be fair in trying to interpret your dreams. Everybody got that? So that's the dream interpretation at 9 p.m. That's going to be at 9 p.m. tonight. And by the way, let me yeah, hold on. Oh, I didn't make one for that. Yeah. There's the dream interpretation for Dramali is at 9 p.m. tonight. And then you have my class on the articles of belief at 10. So we got lectures from at 3. You got a class at 6. You got a class at 7:30. You got a class at 9 and a class at 10. And all the children, this is the weekend. You should have your children tuning in. You know, put our website on your big screen TV. Have the kids watch us on TV all day instead of watching cartoons. Hello. All right. Okay, which brother? Which one, Fatima? You talking about Sheikh Saud? He'll be next Thursday. Yeah, I got a lot of classes coming up, and it's really stressful. By the way, guys, we need support. I mean, we are under in our account again because the bills are coming out. We're overdrawn in our account. We are $115 overdrawn. $115 overdrawn in our account because it costs $2,000 a month to run this website with the programs I'm using to stream the video. Y'all see the commercials are professional. You get what you pay for. Ain't nothing free. Y'all see them commercials we putting out. Y'all see how beautiful the videos are. I make the videos. Geechee does the sound effects. Ain't none of that stuff free. These programs cost money. So please, guys, we are desperately in need of donations. Please, guys, send in some donations. I tell y'all, look at all the blessings you'll get. I got a lot of Muslims coming in here asking me, Sister Layla, what can we do? What can I do, to make Allah pleased with me? How can I increase my blessings? The best gift you can give to another Muslim is the gift of knowledge of Allah, understanding of his deen. So when you guys donate to support this website, whatever blessings Allah has given me, whatever reward Allah has given Dr. Dramali, Dr. Ali, Sheikh Atli for his books that he's written, Kareem Abu Zayd, because we're using his stuff. Whatever reward Allah is giving to any of us, you will get that reward too, because you kept us online. You helped to get the message out to the Muslims around the world. And the simple fact that we're streaming, why do you think a lot of people want to get on board here? We're streaming. I'm streaming on every major platform on the internet. Every major platform. That's why it's expensive too. And I'm doing it all by myself. I'm proud of myself. Got 5 different computers going. Hello, I'm working it, baby. Getting better each day. Alhamdulillah. But I can't work that money because I ain't got no money. This is a nonprofit organization. Okay, we need your support. We need your help. We need your donations. Please support this dawah effort, guys. I tell my students, the best charity, number one, whatever money, after you pay all your bills, I'm talking about your monthly expenses, your rent, gas, lights, food, clothing, shelter, car note, insurance, school, credit cards, whatever you got. Let's just keep it real. Accessories such as facials, nails. You got a girl, got to keep it real. My facials, nails, hair. After taking care of all your monthly expenses, if you have whatever money you have over, say you got $2,000 left over at the end of the month, split it in half. Give 1/2 of it to the mosque, the local mosque in your community. Why? Because charity begins at home. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was asked, O Prophet of Allah, who's most deserving of our charity? He said it begins at home. Your immediate family, which is your wife, your children, are most deserving. Then after them, your other relatives. Then after them, the Muslims in your community. So whatever you have left over after paying all your accessories and bills for that month, split it in half. Give half of it to your local masjid. That way you are helping the Muslims in your community who are in need. And then the other half, give to this website. And that way you are helping the Muslims around the world, because you're giving the Muslims around the world the best gift, better than money. And that's knowledge of Allah, knowledge of Islam, the correct knowledge. That's the key, not just any knowledge. You're giving them the correct knowledge, the correct understanding. Someone that speaks their language, that's going to break it down in plain, simple English the way Dr. Ali does, the way I do, the way Mukhtar does, the way Brother Hanif does. Dr. Asim, who speaks the Fusha, PhD, but breaks it down. Subhanallah, you can't get that just anywhere. Then you got the Q&A. You got Dr. Ibrahim Jamali, always on standby to answer questions. Okay? Subhanallah. So again, support this dawah effort, guys. I mean, we are a 501(c)(3). What does that mean? That means any of y'all living here in America, you can write us off as if for income tax at the end of the year. Oh yeah, you can get your little donations back. Okay? The money ain't going in nobody's pocket, because ain't none of us in need of no falus. Allah takes care of us. Okay? But we do need your support so I can keep this website professionally ran. I can keep the videos professionally made and done, since I'm doing them myself. Okay? And we can continue to stay up to date with what new technology Allah manifests to us. So please support us, guys. Donate. We are $115 overdrawn in our account. This is every month. We go through this. That's $115 we need right there to get us out the red. Then we got all these other bills due. Please support us. All right. So that was my don't make a donation speech. And I'm not good at that type of stuff. I ain't used to asking nobody for anything, because I've never asked anybody for anything for my personal self. I don't have no husband. I ain't got no man to take care of me. Layla been taking care of herself for 36 years. Alhamdulillah. Allah, I made dua when I was 21 and divorced my first husband, Mr. Al Capone. He took good care of me, exposed me to high maintenance lifestyle. Okay? Yeah, I was a trophy wife. Yeah. I mean, let's just get real. I was a trophy wife. All right? But after that, I had to go from mansions down to rags. But I made dua, asking Allah every day, and I still make it. Oh, Allah, make me independent and self-sufficient. Make me independent and self-sufficient. And Allah made me independent and self-sufficient. I don't need nobody to do anything for me financially. But that's me. The website is not me. The website is a separate entity. Okay, so please, guys, send in your donations so we can keep this dawah going. I got new teachers coming here too. That means I'm gonna need to put out more videos. I'm gonna have to put out more streams, more this. I'm getting ready to join up. Like I told you guys, I'm streaming on Mixcloud too now with the hip hop people. Oh yeah, we with the hip hoppers. Oh yeah. Say hello to Jay-Z, Lil Wayne, T.I. I don't know. We on Mixcloud with the hip hoppers. Well, we met Geechee. Geechee is a rough rider. She makes our jingles. But subhanAllah, so I got to get on some more streams now. We got to take the dawah where the dawah need to be. So please support this dawah effort, guys. Scan that QR code, or you can just go to Sunnahfollowers.net, click on make a donation, or go straight to PayPal me/Sunnahfollowers. You will see whatever you give for the sake of Allah, He'll give it back doubled. All right. I want to thank everybody for listening. Work on that stuff for Dr. Asim while I do this PowerPoint. I'll see you guys back here in another half hour, inshallah. Get it together, peoples. Y'all know Dr. Asim will be here. Peace out. Assalamu alaikum. Fresno, you in here? Am I still streaming, y'all? Did I do all that?
You probably is still screaming. Yeah, you still screaming.
Oh, good. Because I'm going to say, don't let me be done went through all that and I'm not even live. You know, I don't go around asking people for donations. That ain't my thing. I need some people to run a donation committee here. You know, subhanAllah. Did I do a good job, though? Because we need to donate.